Hello again, I'm Austin Peacock, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the principles in Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and how you can use these in your networking world. So it's an awesome book if you haven't read it. Stephen Covey was a businessman who did a PhD thesis solely on self-help books. You can definitely overdo it with self-help books, like if you read 10 of them and you don't really act on any of it, that's not going to help you very much. But I really like this one because it's kind of stood the test of time. I even saw it at one of the magnet schools that we were touring that actually just applied the 7 principles to the curriculum for the elementary school students. It's that popular. It's also one of the books that I try to read at least once a year. Okay, so the principle I want to talk about in the book is called Put First Things First. This is a matrix where on the y-axis you have importance, things that are not important and things that are important. And then on the x-axis, you have things that are urgent and things that are non-urgent. This is actually called an Eisenhower matrix from Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he credits it to one of his college professors. Okay, let's start with zone 1. So these are things that are important and urgent. It's really easy to spend a lot of time here because these things are right in your face, they have to get done, and a lot of modern jobs will have no problem with people working in zone 1. A good non-networking example would be the emergency department at a hospital. Everyone that's coming in there has some important issue and they need it looked at right now. They can't wait a week or 2 weeks to get an appointment. So in the networking space, some examples would be if a user is just hard down and they can't do their job. You have to fix that issue right now. Or if they have degraded service, so maybe their workstation is kind of slow or everything's not running efficiently. Or if there's a new vulnerability that has just come out and it's affecting your firewall. You know that you're susceptible to the firewall bug and you have to fix it right now. Or if you're in the middle of some migration or upgrade, those are things that are important and urgent. Okay, so we'll come back to zone 2. First, I want to talk about zones 3 and 4. So zone 3 are things that are urgent but not important. This is a lot of your interrupt-driven work. It can be tasks that are maybe super simple and easy to do, but you don't want to do them right this second, or it's something that you could delegate to a less senior person. You see this a lot if your most senior engineers are super accommodating and can't really push back and tell people to go pound sand. And then if you're a new guy or a new girl on the team, the quickest way to solve your issue is just go to the most senior person. But this can really bog down your team and it's not very helpful to do a ton of zone 3 work. A non-networking example would be maybe calling a meeting to discuss the t-shirt company that you're going to use for the company t-shirts and spending 2 hours doing that. That's not important really. Just make the decision and move on. All right, zone 4. These are just time wasters. These are things that are not important and they're not urgent. An example would maybe be spending 2 hours cycling through fonts to send an email. The font doesn't matter. It's not going to affect the business outcome at all. Just send the email. A good networking example would be clearing all your interface counters and then spending 3 hours changing the colors in your terminal. It's just not very helpful. To anyone walking by your cube, you're going to look busy, but you have to ask yourself, is this really going to do anything that's going to push the business forward? Probably not. All right, so the meat of the video, zone 2. These are things that are important, but not urgent. This, according to Stephen Covey, is the most neglected quadrant. So a good real life example I can give of this is with my grandmother. She's over 90 years old, and for a long time, I wanted to do a video interview with her and talk about her life growing up and growing up on the farm and in the 40s. And this is not urgent, right? There's no one that's ever going to make me do this, but it was important. And so I set aside the time, I took a day off work, and I did it. And now I have that interview and I can share it with my kids and my grandkids and hopefully future generations. So realistically, this was a non-urgent task, but it was very important to me. And so I set aside the time to do it and I'm very glad that I did. And now I have this very cherished recording of my grandmother for me, my kids, kids, and hopefully future generations. Okay, so again, zone 2 are things that are important, but not urgent. You have to deliberately make the time to do these things. So I've narrowed down the top 10 networking things that are important, but not necessarily urgent. All right, number 1, documentation. We all hate to do it. It's not fun. It's constantly changing. But having a well-documented network helps in so many different ways. The first way is that it helps people that are not as technically proficient understand the network. So managers, scrum masters, and people like that. And the second thing is if there's any sort of change in the guard, if you have new people coming in and old people leaving, you don't want that information to leave with the old employee. And documentation helps close that gap. Number 2, syslogs and backups. So backups is pretty obvious. You need to be backing up all of your configurations in a place that is not local to the site and somewhere that it can be easily accessed if the entire network is down. You also need to be able to look back at least a year at old configurations, just in case something's changed and you want to see how you used to run it. So syslogs and a syslog server is a little bit less obvious. The devices that you work with are going to already store logs to some extent, but they're going to roll. So if you need to look back a week or a month, sometimes that information is not there. And if you have an outage, you're going to want those syslogs. If you don't have syslogs, it puts you in this really awkward situation where you maybe have to wait for the issue to reoccur, or you have to force TAC to recreate it in a lab. And this can cost you a lot of time. Number 3, true out-of-band connectivity. It's easy to let this one slide because you can get the network up and have all the data plane packets moving, but you don't have an out-of-band that doesn't run through your data plane. So what that means is if your network goes down, you still need to be able to access the devices to troubleshoot. Don't let this one slide. Number 4, console servers and power mapping. Having out-of-band access is great unless the device you're trying to get to is completely down. At that point, you're gonna have to have access to the console. So instead of having somebody have to go out on site, you can use a console server to access it remotely. Power mapping is really helpful because you can remotely power cycle the device and get it to come back up or down. Having both of these in tandem will give you full control of the device in any scenario. Number 5, automation and orchestration. The initial time investment it takes for automation and orchestration can be immense, but it will definitely pay off in the long run if you can systematically push new configuration that you know is going to work in your environment. Using platforms like Ansible and Terraform can greatly increase the output of every engineer on your team. It's less input and less mistakes. Number 6, cleaning up faults. Faults are registered to your system when there's something wrong, either from a configuration standpoint or an operational standpoint. If you allow faults to build up over time, any new faults can get completely lost in the mix, and honestly, the entire fault system can become unusable. Taking the time to systematically clean up your faults is going to help you in 2 ways. 1, it's going to make your fabric run more efficiently, and 2, any new faults that you see in the future are going to be much more visible. Number 7, NTP and DNS and backups for each. Everyone knows that DNS issues can be a huge driver of network outages, but so few people have a backup in place. Same goes for NTP. You need to make sure that all your devices are time synced. This helps from a logging perspective and an operations perspective. Number 8, take the time to build an outage checklist. If you watch my other video, you know how important it is to have a plan in place when an outage occurs. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants. Make sure you know what to do to get your network back online. Number 9, managing technical debt. I get that that's a pretty broad statement, but I think a really good place to start is actually tracking and documenting the technical debt that you have. From there, you can systematically go down the list and decide what needs to be fixed first and what can maybe wait till later. And as we all know, if you let that technical debt grow, it's going to come back to bite you eventually. Number 10, continuing education. Make sure that everyone on your team is taking full advantage of all the educational resources that are available to them. And be deliberate. Take time away from your normal job to be fully dedicated to learning new material. Okay, those are my top 10 Quadrant 2 networking tasks. So how can you easily apply this knowledge? I think a great place to start is if your company runs Agile, devote about 20% of your stories or points to Zone 2 work. Again, be deliberate. Take the time to do Zone 2 work, and you're going to greatly thank yourself later. Remember, this work is important, but it's not urgent. It's never going to jump up and hit you in the face until it's too late. Check out The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People if you haven't read it. There are 6 more great principles in that book that I love, and I may even pick 1 or 2 to do in future videos. I'm Austin Peacock. Please check out the other videos on the channel and go to good-gateway.com to stay up to date with all our offerings and blog posts. Until next time.